dia. Good morning. Very happy to be here today. It's a new thing for me to be speaking and be translated into Portuguese. If I start speaking too fast, just put up your arms and say, slow down, like that. So in the United States, in 1776, we had a fight for independence and a Declaration of Independence. And we said that the citizens of our country are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness. The problem is that for too many children growing up in the United States, in my country, it's hard to pursue happiness without an education. If you grow up poor, or for many children of color, they fall very far behind their white and more affluent counterparts. Without a good education in primary school, middle school, and high school, they can't go to college and get jobs in the knowledge economy. Very hard for them to pursue happiness. And there's a fundamental inequality. We call this here in the United States the achievement gap, the lacuna of student learning. And here it shows, the top line in this particular chart shows the scores for white students, could be for affluent students, and the bottom line shows for black students or low-income students. And what this really means is that by the time children in the United States reach the age of 18, when they finish high school, the average white student is 4 years ahead of the average black student. So the average 18-year-old low-income student or black student is 4 years behind, and this results in a fundamental inequality. If you're poor in the United States, so if you're wealthy in the United States, there is a 3 in 4 chance that you are going to go to university and reach success in life. If you are low income, you have an 8 in 100 chance. You're 10 times more likely to be successful in the United States if you're wealthy than if you're low income. Now, I've only been in Brazil for a few days, but my understanding is that it's very similar here. My understanding is that if we go to the top university campuses in this country, we do not see many black students, and we do not see many low-income children. I know that there are people in Brazil, as there are people in the United States, who have great success without an education. Your former president, Lula, I think, finished school at grade 5. But for most people, an education means everything. So the question that we ask in the United States is must your demography, must where you are born determine your destiny? When I look in the newspapers in the United States and I see the test scores of children, it's pretty much a map of where they live. The high-achieving students are in the wealthy neighborhoods. The low-achieving students are in the poor neighborhoods. So this is in Newark, New Jersey, where there's a large Brazilian Portuguese-speaking population. Must there be an achievement gap here? Must there be an achievement gap here? It's my contention today that there does not need to be an achievement gap. And then in order for us to change the fundamental inequality, in order for us in Brazil, as well in the United States, to offer a free, public, quality education, in order to live up to the promise of the 1988 Constitution, teaching matters most. Teachers matter most. I began my own career by working at a public charity called the Robin Hood Foundation. We were supporting homeless people in shelters, providing soup for people who couldn't eat, fighting AIDS, and yet we realized that education and teaching mattered most in breaking the cycle of poverty. So I started a school in Newark, New Jersey called North Star Academy, and then a network of schools called Uncommon Schools, which is about 30 schools in New York City, in Newark, in Boston, and other places. And finally, in order to grow and spread the idea that teaching matters most, we created our own teacher training program, which is now a college of education, a graduate school of education, where we teach teachers. It's called the Relay Graduate School of Education. So here's what we see in the United States. I assume that it's the same here in Brazil. For the average student who's in that little blue dot on the y-axis, they get 3 good teachers in a row, 3 great teachers in a row. They will achieve at the highest level and close the achievement gap. If they have 3 weak teachers in a row, they're going down, and you can kiss college goodbye. You are not going to achieve well in school and in life. A relay of 3 great teachers in a row makes all the difference. So this is one of the teachers in our school in Newark, New Jersey. Her name is Asia Settles. Miss Settles is worth about 500,000 Brazilian dollars in future earnings to her students. A great kindergarten teacher, according to recent research from Harvard University, equals 500,000 Brazilian dollars per year in future earnings of her students. Great teachers matter. So the question that we have before us is this: do we have to rely on teachers just being born full, ready to teach? Or is it possible for us to make and deliver to our children great teachers? You have 2.5 million teachers in Brazil. Are they born great? Or is it possible for us to train them and prepare them to be great? In the United States, President Obama appointed this gentleman who used to run the Chicago Public Schools. Chicago Public Schools is about half of the size of Rio de Janeiro's public schools. And this Secretary of Education now runs the entire country's education department. And he gave a speech about 2-3 years ago, right after he became the secretary, and he said there are about 1,400 schools of education in the United States. They've been around in the United States for about 100 years, and they are not getting the job done in making great teachers. They are doing, he said, a mediocre job. I have not visited any schools of education in Brazil, but I assume that some of the same challenges that we have in the United States are here, and that the teachers who are coming to you in your cities, in your school districts, who have been prepared by the traditional universities, are not as ready to teach as you and your children need them. That needs to change. And so, I'm going to share with you a few ideas that we've developed in the United States, in our schools, and that I think that you all are starting to learn here. One of them is a colleague of mine. His name is Doug Lemov, and he wrote a book called Teach Like a Champion. It was translated as Aula Nota. Did I say that right? Yeah, okay. So every city, every country has its own great teachers. I'm sure that you all have in each of your cities people who you would look to as your role models. I'm not saying that you have to follow the role models that we have, but just to understand the idea of what Doug Lemov did might be helpful as you think about how to develop the professional development and teacher training in your own districts. We opened the doors of all of our classrooms. We made it normal for other teachers and principals and visitors to come in the classrooms. When we go to visit classrooms in our schools in the United States, in our network of schools, the children stay focused on their teacher, the lesson goes on. All the kids don't turn and start to look at the visitor. It's very important to start to build professional practice. So Mr. Lemov went into all these classrooms, not noticed by the students. He stood in the back of the classrooms and he watched the best teachers. For 10 years, the best teachers, the ones who were closing the achievement gap, who made a difference in the lives of the poorest and hardest to reach students. And he started to figure out what are the common techniques and practices that made a difference. And he started to put names to those, and he essentially created a taxonomy of teaching practices, So, as an example, great teachers they begin with the very end. They think about what it is that is the objective for the lesson. What must the students learn between now and grade 5 or grade 8 or grade 12? What is it that they need to learn in this particular year, in this unit, in this lesson today? What's our objective? And only then do they start beginning to build their lesson plans. Everything is designed for the objective. So, as the previous speaker, as Claudia spoke before, we're not just providing classes, we are trying to ensure that there's student learning. In order to ensure that there's student learning, we have to begin with the end in mind. We are double planning. Great teachers double plan. Double planning means that you're not only planning for the objective, to meet the objective, but you're planning with all of the students in your class in mind. You know all of your students, you know what they're likely to do in the various lesson, and you're planning for them. Great teachers circulate. We're going to watch a video in a second. Watch for circulation. It means going around the room. If this were a regular classroom, I would be going around the room constantly, looking over your shoulders, trying to ensure that you are following what I'm saying. That's what great teachers do. Rigorous questioning means that you're not asking easy questions just to make yourself happy, but you're constantly creating rigorous learning by asking really tough questions. Sometimes in class, you ask a question, and the very bright students in the front row raise their hands. And because you want to feel good about your own teaching, you call on the ones who have their hands raised. But the problem is, if we're trying to ensure for student learning, we have to reach all of the students in the class. And so great teachers are cold calling all of the students so that all of the students have to pay attention all the time. And there's a concept that when we ask a question, we don't let the students opt out. We don't give them permission to not participate. We continue to push for a response. And sometimes teachers get answers to questions, and because they just want to have a happy day, any answer is sufficient. But we are pushing for right is right. And lastly, and this goes with what I was saying before, we can't ensure student learning unless we check for student learning. So if we begin with the end and we know where we're going, then it's our job as teachers, and this is what great teachers do, to constantly check to see whether the students are learning. We do this by asking questions, We do this by giving quizzes. At the end of each lesson, we have exit tickets. Some measure so we can figure out whether or not the students learn during the period. It's our job as teachers to do that. Anybody know what that is? We call it a casino, but this is, where do you go? You go to Paraguay for the casinos? This is Las Vegas. Las Vegas, right? So the question that I have is, how should our classrooms be more like a casino, more like Las Vegas? I am not saying that we should introduce gambling for 7-year-olds. But casinos know how to engage us. They know how to set up a room. They know how to set up an area so that people are driven to put their money into the slot machines, to spend as much money as possible and to stay as long as possible. Great teachers and great schools are trying to win their students' engagement, and they're going to use any technique that they can to do that. Mona Lisa. I'm not going to go do an art history lesson, but you notice that the nose and the eyes and the proportionality in Rembrandt's painting is darn near perfect. Sorry. Da Vinci. Da Vinci, right? So, sorry. Da Vinci. So, it's the thing. What interests me most in Da Vinci's Mona Lisa is the ratio. It's the proportionality. And so the question that we have to ask ourselves is, what is the right proportionality? What is the right ratio? What is the Da Vinci-like dimension in our own classrooms? If we walk into a classroom and a teacher is doing all of the talking, if 99% of what's happening in a classroom is teacher talk, it's not a very good proportion. Our research and experience shows that there is not student learning, that it is just an adult in the front of the room covering a topic, providing a class. Similarly, if you walk in a classroom and the teacher is doing no talking and the students are in small groups and doing 100% of the talking, it is very difficult to see how the objective is being met and how there's student learning. That's a bad ratio too. Go visit your teachers' classrooms and try to figure out what ratio you think is best. We think it's about 42.3% teacher talk. In a good classroom, the teacher is speaking about 42.3%, and the rest of the time is either students talking or thinking, independent practice, guided practice. Right? One of the things that we do at Relay Graduate School of Education is that we do not put researchers out there to teach teachers. We get the best teachers possible to teach teachers. The teachers who are closing the achievement gap for low-income students in our schools are the ones who we put in front of our teachers to train them. Seems like a simple concept, but that's not happening in the 1,400 graduate schools of education. One of the things that we do at Relay is we show video. So I'm going to show you a video in 1 second. What I want you to do when you look through the video is, what is it that the teacher is doing? What is it the teacher is doing that you like? What is it the teacher is doing, and what is it that you think is strong? What do you like? Let's roll the game film.
And now, Amarius, I am on 1. Good afternoon, Harvard.
Good afternoon, Miss Wilson.
What is our objective for today? Ooh, look at those hands. Here we go. Let's go with A first. What did we do a long time ago when we first did patterns? It was a while ago. I know, it was a while ago. When we first did patterns, I love the track that I'm saying now. I wonder what happens when I move around the room. What is that first step that we did after we circled, well, second step, sorry, after we circled the rule? We need to draw them. Brooklyn, tracker, I see hands up there ready to read. Only have 3 choices left, so let's see. All right, I need someone with voice. Deasia, you have voice for me? You sure? All right, hands down. Deasia's reading. Go ahead.
August had 4 more birthdays than June.
All right, now don't say anything because I need to see my fingers. True for Jasmine, true or false? Let's see them. Now you can't do this because I can't tell. Looks like one big finger. True or false? I like how Brooklyn took her time quickly to read and make sure she knew her answer. She didn't look around the room at anybody else's fingers. She wanted to make sure she knew her answer. True or false? All right. Oh boy. We're down to the last 2. I hope one of these works. That wouldn't be good if it didn't. Oh well, we'll see. Here we go. I need somebody to read C. I need voice though. Caleb, we're going to work on your voice, okay? Oh yeah, because I know you have it. I want to hear it. C. Read it. I really like the enthusiasm that I'm seeing. This whole column right here is really grabbing hold to it. Jordan, I know you're trying to persevere today. Keep on trying, okay? All right, let's hear C. Summer, use your voice. What is that scale counting by right now? What is that scale counting by? Obsession, what is it counting by? Whew, look at that track. I didn't even have to say it. It's counting by 2. Easy. What do we have to do next to each one of those things? Draw our 4 lines. So for A and C, let's draw our 4 lines. But you should make sure you're drawing your 4 lines and nothing else. Draw your 4 lines. Draw your 4 lines. Oh, Shantae has it. Shantae. Where's my slant? Jordan, I see you trying to pull it together, sir. All right, turn your page. Let's see how you do, okay? Marius is done. Don't slam your pencil. I know you're done by your track. Pencils down in 5, 4, 3, 2. I just saw Braisha go from the top of the bar that was way over here so she could make sure she had the right number. 2, pencils down, and 1. When we do heads down, eyes closed, what do? We take a what? A vote. Very good. How come we didn't choose B, crackers and candy? Why not? Why not, Tayani? I like how you just tracked Deontay without even a word. Correct. Now, it's not enough to just tell me that you chose that answer. Here are Miss Austin's questions. Here we go. Show me slant. Don't lose it. You guys have been doing an awesome job persevering. Here we go.
Okay, so we're looking at game film. We're looking at film of our teachers all the time. We do that. That's your soccer team, right? We do that because this is how we learn what good teachers do. Maybe when we go through question and answers with Dennis, we can speak specifically about what you saw in the film. I really liked the way she used a very strong voice. And yet, at the same time, that entire clip of 3 minutes was very positive framing. She was giving encouragement to the whole class. She was giving encouragement to groups of students. She was giving encouragement to individual students. She was circulating widely. She was teaching character in order to get students to be able to track the speaker and to be respectful. There were many strong elements of that film. Your job isn't to copy this particular teacher. or use this particular clip, but to figure out who are the teachers in your schools who are doing the right things, to film them, and to analyze the film, to analyze the video with your teachers. The way the Brazilian national soccer team gets great is by practicing all the time. To get good at anything, you have to practice, and that goes for teaching as well. And so the way at the Relay Graduate School of Education we focus on practice is by asking our teachers not to write papers about the history or philosophy or theory of education. We ask them to demonstrate the techniques like the ones that I just showed you, and to film themselves with their iPhones or their flip video cameras, and then to show the videotape to their trainers, to their mentors, to their colleagues, and themselves, so that they can become reflective practitioners and get better. And they're always practicing their specific techniques and practices. The saddest thing that we could do for education in Brazil or anywhere else is to allow our teachers, after they finish the university program, to walk into their classrooms, to close the door, to never watch them, to never film them, and to never have them talk about the specific techniques and practices with their colleagues.
Now, the author didn't use compromise in this part of the text, but how can we use the word compromise to think about what happened in this part of the story?
So the question Ms. Vargas asks is, how can we use the word compromise to think about what happened in this part of the story? Let's see what happens after 1.4 seconds.
But how can we use the word compromise to think about what happened in this part of the story?
One hand. That's quite possibly the same hand that was raised last time there was a question. The same hand that was raised almost every time there's a question. In fact, it's the same hand that was up before the question was even asked. Calling on this student is not a recipe for getting the best answer or for getting more kids to participate and engage. So that's the challenge. How does Ms. Vargas overcome it? Here she uses narrated wait time. This is one session within a larger module called Engaging Everybody, where you'll learn 4 techniques that will get more of your students actively participating in your class. Many teachers wait a few strategic seconds between asking a question and calling on a student for the answer. That's wait time. It's often silent, but teachers whose goal is to close the achievement gap often narrate their wait time. That's a crucial distinction. They use this narration to shape what students do and think about during the time they've been given. We've been watching Ms. Vargas at North Star Academy. Let's play the clip out and see how long she waits and how she narrates.
But how can we use the word compromise to think about what happened in this part of the story? 1, 2, 3 people are thinking. More? Ooh, almost half the class is thinking. Chinedum.
I see 13 hands. That's 13 times the engagement. So even if you only take one answer, everyone's done the thinking. There's an irony to the wait. The students are learning faster when Ms. Vargas slows down. She gives up 15 seconds, but ultimately she's coming out ahead. Better student engagement, better pacing, stronger cognition. In the end, she'll save time by only having to ask the question once.
So Miss Vargas, the teacher there in Newark, New Jersey, was not born a great teacher. She learned how to teach by looking at film, by getting instruction, by getting training, by getting professional development. She did not know at university what wait time was. And as she learned the technique and demonstrated the technique, 13 times the number of students were engaged with the lesson. The ratio shifted from the teacher doing all the work to the students doing the thinking and the work. That's why wait time is important. That's why video is important. And we think by giving these lessons in an online format, we give teachers the time and the space to review and study. I don't know if you have The Simpsons in Brazil. Homer Simpson is stuck in his seat. He's tied down to his seat. And in too many universities and training programs, people feel like they are tied down to their seat with their whole body on fire, and they can't wait to get out. But in order to get the certificate for permission to teach, in order to be able to get a job as a teacher in our country and yours and too many places in the world, you have to sit in your chair for 4 years or 5 years until you get that piece of paper. At Relay, we try to make this much more about proficiency. Can you deliver for your students? Can you ensure student learning? And on the basis of that competency or proficiency or expertise, that's when you get your degree, and that's when you get permission to teach. Another thing that our teachers struggle with in the United States is that we have so many different organizations and people acting on them. So this particular teacher has one rubric from Teach for America, another rubric from her district, another from her school, another from her mentor, and 4 different people speaking 4 different languages and 4 different ideas, and this causes this nice teacher's head to explode. We have got to align the work of our teacher preparation with the work of our schools. The language that you're speaking in your municipalities, in your districts, in your schools, with your teachers has got to be consonant, congruent with the message from the teacher preparation programs. Until we do that, we make it very difficult for young teachers to develop. This may sound very American. This may sound very capitalistic. Pick your adjective. But data is important. So remember the concept that we have to ensure student learning. It's very hard to do that without using or looking at any kind of data. So what we do in our schools and our network is we offer diagnostic assessments every 6 weeks, every 6 to 8 weeks, to see that our students are making progress against the clear standards. And then the teachers gather around the data, and they're looking at why Jose is having trouble or why the entire class missed a particular idea or concept. And so the data drives the instruction. And at Relay, we are teaching teachers to be friendly with, to be on good terms with the data and not to be frightened by it. We want our teachers to be able to analyze data so that they can help their children learn and achieve at the highest level. In our master's program, there are 2 requirements to get a master's degree in education. 1, you've gotten proficient at about 60 different techniques and strategies and areas. And 2 is that you can ensure that your students in a year made a year's worth of growth or progress. Proficiency on the techniques plus student learning, you graduate. Lest you think that we are only about academic achievement, let me share that a big part of what we're doing is teaching character. That we know that teachers, when they stand up in front of children every day, are not only teaching algebra or how to read in Portuguese, but they're teaching how to be strong, resilient, nice, loving, how to be persevering. I don't know if you noticed in one of those videos, the first video that I showed you, the teacher was talking about the idea of perseverance, or what we call grit, with the students. To persevere in a lesson, to persevere in a year, to persevere in life. If we send our students off only with the academics and not with the character, they're also not going to be able to achieve and pursue happiness in life. There are two books that I would recommend. One is called Intelligence and How to Get It by a gentleman named Richard Nisbett, and it says that intelligence is malleable. I know that there was a study that was done of teachers in Brazil, and about half the teachers said that they didn't believe that their children were going to go to college. That's wrong. This book, Intelligence and How to Get It, says that we can make our kids smarter and that there's no reason why everyone can't achieve at the highest level. And it is our job not to sort children out or to blame the children and families who can't be successful. It is our job to teach them towards success. And because intelligence is malleable, we have it in our power to go and do that, and that is the highest calling of being a teacher. The book on the right is about positive psychology. It is about the character strengths that I was speaking about before. They researched what makes people happy in life, and it is the presence of these character strengths that I talked about. And character is malleable too. We can learn to become more optimistic. We can learn self-control. We can learn respect. And if intelligence is malleable and character is malleable, then the good news is that we as teachers, we as educators, we as the inventors of schools and the leaders of entire school systems can make a huge difference in the lives of our children. Do you ski in Brazil? Do you have skiing? Do you have skiing? No? You go to Paraguay or Bolivia? Or where do you go to ski? Nobody skis. Okay. I don't ski either. It's okay. You're going to have the Summer Olympics, not the Winter Olympics. That's good. Right? So, in the United States, when people go on very fancy vacations and they want to ski and there's no snow, there's a concept that you can take silver iodide tablets and throw it up into the clouds and make it snow. The point is that it is possible to construct, to build, to make the weather. And we, as teachers, we as leaders of schools, make the weather in our classrooms and in our schools. We can decide whether the weather is going to look like this, dark and cloudy, nobody's going to college, nobody is going to be successful at breaking the achievement gap. Or we can make the weather like this. How we show ourselves to our teachers and parents and children will make all the difference in our community, will make all the difference in our schools, in our classrooms. Think about the amount of time every day, 200 days a year, that children are with their teachers. If teachers look grumpy, unhappy, if teachers are only doing their jobs to get paid, if teachers don't believe in their hearts that kids are going to be able to achieve at the highest level, the children will know that. Children are so very smart and perceptive. They recognize how their teachers are feeling. They recognize whether or not their teachers believe in them. And on some level, they know that the teachers can make the weather in their classrooms. And so, what I would encourage us to do always is to teach our teachers and the adults around us to have the mindset and the hearts and the beliefs that all students can learn at the highest level, that we have it within our control to ensure student learning, to make the weather, and that we build a system of schools that is going to transform the lives of our children. The techniques and strategies that I shared about today are just a few of the examples. And one can use those, or one can construct others. But before one embarks upon the journey of making great teachers, making great classrooms, making great schools, we have to believe two things. One, that our children can grow in their learning and their character. And two, that the educators, the adults, have the responsibility, the power, and the control to make things different. If we have those two beliefs, just the way that you stopped inflation in this country, just the way you stopped the military dictatorship in this country, just the way you've grown a really booming economy, you have it within your power. You have it within your control to change the destiny of tens of millions of children who are in turn going to make this country a great, great country in the entire world. I believe this with all my heart, and I say obrigado, thank you for letting me share with you today. I really believe in what you all are doing, and I look forward to talking with you more. Thank you very much.